Hello folks. Last Thursday, the 18th of June, the Northern Ireland Executive announced an indicative date of when they hope to be able to allow churches to meet again for worship. And they gave a date of the week beginning Monday the 29th of June. So the first Sunday will be the 5th of July. Now what they have not told us as yet is what the restrictions will be, what numbers would be allowed. And so we don't know if really it will be feasible for us to return at this time or not. We have to wait and see whether the numbers allowed will be large enough for us and be able to return to worship. But what we have planned is that on Monday the 29th of June, that the Kirk Session will meet at 7:30 and then the committee will meet at 8:30 in order to consider what has been announced. At that stage, we will know what numbers will be allowed and what restrictions indeed are in place. Let me just say a wee bit about the responsibilities of Kirk Session and Committee. Kirk Session have the responsibility of deciding when services take place, so they will decide whether or not they think what has been announced would indeed allow us to begin to plan to return. They will have a time, hopefully agree a timetable for when this may be. Then it's up to the committee to decide and look after the practicalities of all this, and so that indeed that can all be put in place. Let me just say that this could take a period of time. It's not that we're going to be able to flick our fingers on the 29th of June and be able to start worship straight away. It could be quite a period of time, even if we think we can advance with this. We have been given documents from the Presbyterian Church about what we have to do before, indeed, church activities can resume. And there are 25 listed things we have to do. They vary from things about insurance to preparing the building, things like cleaning and signage, markings and a plan for seating, things like that. Also, we have to have a plan for different things, and we have to be able to share that with people who will be coming, that they'll be aware of restrictions. So there's a lot of work which will have to take place before we return to worship. So I imagine that this would take quite a period of time for all of this to be put in place. So Kirk Session and Committee will look at that and consider that on the 29th of June, and we will keep you informed about that. But as I say, there are 25 things we have to do. We have to then report to our presbytery that we have fulfilled these 25 conditions before the go-ahead can be given for us to return to worship. In regards to organisation activities, I imagine we will focus on returning to worship first, and then hopefully we can consider the organisations and a plan for that afterwards. But again, that's some time away in the future. But let me just say a wee bit about, in order to just preparing you for the future, when we may return to worship, what it will be like, whether that is fairly short term or longer term, what it will be like. And I think we have to be very aware of that. It will not be as it is before. There will be quite a number of differences. First of all, in regards to numbers, the restrictions will mean that there will be a lot less people at a service at a time. And likelihood is the spacing in the building, it might be every third pew that will be used. And maybe you have the same pew that you've always sat in for generations. Things are going to be different, and you need to be flexible for that when that happens. And so there'll be a lot less people in the building at one time, which again will change the atmosphere greatly for what you're used to on a Sunday. There will also be no singing, from what it seems to be indicated. There'll be no congregational praise, so that will make it very different. There will be quite a number of folk maybe who will decide initially not to return. Some may have shielding letters, some maybe folk who are vulnerable will decide not to return, and we understand that everyone will have to indeed make that decision themselves. I hope we will have we'll continue some online worship for folk who will not be able to come along at the beginning. We may, in regards numbers, we may consider, we will think about whether we will not be able to get everyone in for the service at once. So we may have a service in the church and then an overflow in the church hall or streamed there. We may think about doing several services on a Sunday morning, and people will be going to one of the several services. Some may be in the church building, some may be in the hall. We have to work that out. So there's a lot of things we don't know as yet. But one thing I want to say is it will be very different. It will not be what it was before. People will have to come in quickly and leave quickly, and so it will be very different in that. But I encourage you to pray for us as we will respond to what we hear this Thursday. Pray for the Kirk Session and the committee and the responsibilities. I think there are two things which will be a priority for us. We want to minimise any risk to our people, and we will do all that we can to do that. And we'll think through that carefully, and even it takes a bit extra time to do it, we will do that. When we start, we want to do it right, and so we'll minimise it, the risk as much as we can, but also we want to maximise just the benefit of coming together and to make the most of the opportunities that will arise. So please pray for us as we do this. But again, I just want to emphasise that indeed this may be over quite a period of time. We have to wait to hear what's announced on Thursday. Kirk Committee and Kirk Session will meet on Monday, and then, God willing, we'll be able to share a bit more of what the plans are ahead. Just to say that before we return, we will make it very clear to the congregation, we're required by this, by our church and other folk, to make it very clear to folk what will be happening. So it's not as if you'll be coming in blind, wondering what's going to take place. We will give you as much detail as we can, so that when we do return, you can return with great confidence as to what's happening, how you'll be protected, and what will be expected in all that. So, in the meantime, over these next weeks, I encourage you to benefit from the online material and the CDs and continue to worship our God in that way. We're still a church family. The building is still closed, although I'm sneaked in here this morning. The building's still closed, but the church is very much alive and active, and I encourage you to continue to play your part in worshipping God and praying and supporting the work of our church. Remind you too of next Sunday night, the 28th of June, God willing, our drive-in service at 7 p.m. Pray for that. Pray for all the preparations. Pray for good weather, which is important, that we can get the silage cut and all that this week, and that we will be able to meet in that format. It's not perfect, but it will be an opportunity for us to come together. So that's on the 28th of June at 7 p.m. in the Manse Field beside Brookside Manse. God bless.